Sunderland kind of drew yesterday, 1-1 with Accrington Stanley, but the game was abandoned with about 15 minutes left. And to dissect 3/4 of a game, I have some members of Durham County Cricket Club, which is me going into an area that I know absolutely nothing about. So I'm the rookie, I suppose, in this instance. So we're joined by Chris.
Not the first person to say that, don't worry.
Yeah, that's a tongue twister.
Quite a bit.
It's usually over the tannoy, isn't it?
Chris Rushworth. That's like a tongue twister. So Chris Rushworth, Carse Brydon and Matty Wilson.
Carse Brydon.
Carse Brydon.
I'm just swapping the name around.
Have I got that wrong?
It's Brydon.
I'm blaming Gav for that. That's why he put on the Twitter.
Oh
no, it's because your Twitter handle.
His Twitter
handle.
Oh well, I've had a nightmare. I'm still going to leave it in.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
So we'll just call me Carse today.
Yeah.
Just call him Carsey.
Carsey. Okay, we'll go Carsey. So before we get going, I know nothing about cricket, as clear as it is from me not being able to pronounce anyone's names, even the simple British one, which is Chris Rushworth. So can we get to know you a little bit for our audience who do not know anything about cricket like me? So Chris, what do you do at Durham? What is your position?
So I'm opening bowler. So I've been at Durham now for just coming up 10 years next year. Born and bred Sunderland lad. Grew up playing local cricket at a club called Hilton. Moved to Sunderland at Ashbrook, and then joined Durham from there. So that was kind of my progression into cricket.
And cricket always been your number one sport?
It has. I grew up within cricket and family. Phil Mustard, who played for Durham in England, he was my cousin. He used to live 2 doors up from us. So family was always a big thing. And for me, being, I guess, one of the youngest in the family, it was a natural progression.
Fair play. And Matty, you aren't a cricketer?
No, I don't pretend I am either.
So what's your role?
So I'm sales manager at the club, so like I said, basically trying to convince everybody that these two are worth watching. Which is...
And are they worth watching?
Job. Aye, sometimes. All right.
And Carsey, you've got probably a more interesting story than these two.
Yeah, I came over in 2014. I played a season of club cricket for Burnmore, and been at Durham now for 4 years. So that's pretty much where I'm at now. Local Chester boy, I like to think. But yeah, I'm an all-rounder at Durham. So I've had a bit of a bad patch the last year with injury. So I've just come back from a knee injury. But looking forward to next season already.
And we're all massive Lads fans here. So I want to know why. I mean, often it might just be geography, but Carsey, you're obviously adopted the culture.
Yeah. Well, look, growing up in South Africa, I think many people there support or like to support top Premier League teams. So when I was young, I used to enjoy watching Fernando.
Move closer.
I used to enjoy watching Fernando Torres play. So I adopted Liverpool when I was younger. Came over, obviously, and just started supporting Sunderland. So that's where I'm at now.
How's that experience been going?
Good.
Good, really?
Yeah, good. Obviously, the last few years haven't been great for the club, but I think new management and new ownership now, I think I can only see one way forward now for Sunderland. I'd like to think that.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed.
Chris, I presume yours is geography.
It is. It's not as plain sailing as it probably should be.
I love that. Go on.
Obviously, as a young lad, before I really knew football and knew what was going on, I went through a stage of when I was like 4 or 5, supporting every team that won the league for about 3 years. And then when I kind of understood the game a bit more and realised that, we've got a good football club just down the road, and obviously Sunderland from there was it. But for a few years, I remember one year I was a Blackburn fan when I was young. Through no other reason than they won the league once.
Cheering on Shearer.
I think he was gone then. Or was he?
No, we won the league with Blackburn.
Oh, it must have been then, aye.
There's you get Shearer 9 on the back.
I see, I can't even remember that, so that's how much I knew about it then. But from probably 5 or 6, went on to support Sunderland.
Fair play, Matty.
Boring story, had no choice with my dad really.
No choice? Not
really. Massive Lads fan, been gone to match home and away for probably 34 years. So it was either that or being disowned.
Fair enough. You used to work at the club, didn't you?
Yeah, I was there for a year before I came to Durham, so obviously, as you can imagine, that was a dream job.
Who were you working with then? What year was that?
Well, I've been at Durham a year and a half, and I joined Durham about 2 days after I left Sunderland. So quite a tough era.
Yeah, you got
although obviously I got highlights. I joined when Poya was the manager, so I've seen a couple of great escapes, and then
plenty of mag wins as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then obviously towards the end it wasn't as good.
And you got any dirt on Martin Bain?
Yeah, I'll not say anything.
I was going to say, yeah.
To be honest, I will say that as an employee, I found him okay to work for. He came in with a tough remit. Obviously, he gets a lot of stick because of the money that he was paid, which is sort of not really his fault. You're not going to turn it down here.
True.
Obviously, as a Sunderland fan, first and foremost, I'm not inclined to like him, but as a man and as a employee, I can't really lie and tell you that he was this sort of monster that he's kind of painted out to be.
What do you make of what's happened since you've left? You know, are you surprised that the clubs fell down? Without going into it too much, but are you surprised we're in this situation?
No, not at all. From working there for a year, there's absolutely no shocks, to be honest. It was written on the cards, and it was just delayed, and then it eventually happened. There's always going to be a tipping point, but I think, I don't know, it's hard to describe as a fan as an employee, because you had to have two sort of heads. You had to kind of try and understand why they were trying to do things as an employee, but then as a fan you were a bit annoyed. So that was a bit of a challenge with working there, to be honest. Okay,
we're going to move on to positive things. Firstly, obviously our game was postponed, abandoned, which means we can't talk about it as much as we would like, because technically the goals and whatnot don't actually count. Chris Maguire's karate kick, handball effort won't go in the record books, unfortunately.
I thought it was a 20-yard screamer, me.
Probably was. He probably was about 20 yards out, to be fair. I'm not sure if it was a screamer.
I thought it was McGeady until about 10 minutes ago.
So what did we make of the game yesterday? I suppose, what was your day like? What time did you leave? Did you drive down, bus, train?
Yeah, I set off on the bus at 8 o'clock, got to Accrington 10:30.
A few quiet ones
before the match. Yeah, but it's a unique place, Accrington, I think.
For you.
Well, yeah, for me, it almost because one of the lads I was with was saying that, is it Berkeley? Berkeley holds 20,000 people.
Burnley?
Yeah.
No, Berkeley.
Berkeley.
Oh, okay.
I said Berkeley holds 20,000 people, and apparently it's just there's
Berkeley town?
Berkeley?
Does it?
Well,
the actual town centre, not the football ground.
No, Berkeley.
No,
centre.
The town, the population.
Right.
Not the ground. It's just a field.
Well, I thought he was.
I was confused.
I thought he was referencing football.
No, man, no. So
right.
the actual area of
Right,
Berkeley holds 20,000 people, and apparently there's it's got more people in Berkeley than Accrington. So it's a unique place, I thought. Different.
Shows you where we're at in the
it does
football pyramid when you're playing.
Well, they're really batting above where they are and where.
Yeah,
100%. Good on them.
Yeah. No, fair play. Credit to them getting up there. So you get there at 10:30. Have a few drinks. What time did you get to the ground?
3:15.
Yeah.
I was ticketing problems, wasn't it?
I missed
I just liked the pub.
No, I missed the kickoff. I couldn't bloody see halfway down the ground. There was that much rain. But no, it was. I thought it's difficult to judge a game when conditions like that have a massive impact. So I think, obviously looking back at it now, fair enough that, I think a replay is probably the best possible thing that could happen. I think a point, I don't think Sunderland deserved less than a point.
But you wouldn't take it either.
No, I wouldn't.
I'd rather replay the game.
Yeah, so I'd probably rather replay the game.
Were you surprised that they even played it or even tried to play it? Because it was 1:30 they were saying might not go ahead, and then 2 o'clock they gave the word that it was going to go on. So we're surprised that the referee even allowed it.
I think the forecast as well was just more rain, so I think from that point of view it was a bit strange. But I suppose you've got an obligation to try and play it if people have travelled that far, and you've got to try and get through it, because you can imagine you don't play the game and then it's bright sunshine and there's no reason why you haven't.
I suppose as cricketers as well, you wouldn't have wanted to play that. You would have been called off straight away.
Definitely not. As soon as there was a puddle on the ground, we would have ran for cover, and covers would have been on and all sorts. But I mean, I wasn't there, but I saw it on the telly and stuff, and like Mike was saying, the rain was just getting worse, and you could see the puddles were just building up
I think
on the ground and that.
When the ball's not really travelling as well, it makes it dangerous. And I think both the goals were a factor from rain, essentially, because I don't think their keeper would have struggled to get it off the ground.
Do you not think that he could have just let it go on?
Yeah, but with the players get injured.
When did he get called off? 72nd minute?
75, something like that.
Something like that. There, so you think like...
It wasn't, the thing is, not just the players, like we were in a terrace, like covered in rain, people falling about all over and that. It's like, I suppose you've got to look at the safety point.
Imagine if we scored a 94th minute goal to win it. Imagine how dangerous it would have been with people in that weather. I mean, obviously it would have been amazing as well, but, slipping and God knows what else. So I'm not surprised they called up, but I just wish they'd sort of...
Thing is, it was a 0-0 game, really, because like you said, both the goals would never have happened.
But then the game would have been totally different if it was sunshine. I mean, we play football, don't we?
Which is why I'd prefer to have a replay, play them on an even keel and normal weather.
Do you think Jack Ross will have said to the referee or even to himself and his coaching staff that they're better off replaying it rather than taking the point?
Probably. I mean, he said after the game that he had no sort of issues with the decision. And obviously he's probably got one eye on Pompey winning and thinking, well, we've got another chance. Luton won, thinking, well, we've got a chance to go again, sort of thing. Obviously, we're now going to have a build-up of games. If we've got the Blackpool game to replay, we've got that, and then if we beat Walsall tomorrow, the Charlton game away will be off. And
we've got Newcastle as well in January.
So I don't know whether that's a good thing or a bad thing to have to be a few points behind, but games in hand, I think psychologically you'd rather have the points on the board and be on an even keel playing-wise.
Just on that with Jack Ross, you were saying about Jack Ross. I don't know if you could see it from the game, but watching it on the stream, obviously all the cameras and that went straight to the referee when he called it off. Like 90% of the players were, like arms in the air, what's going on, carry on, whatever. Jack Ross was the first person to walk straight to the referee, shook his hand and just walked off. So I think he kind of said straight away, like, right, fair enough, happy with that. Let's play it a different day.
You've got to worry as well. Like we've already had loads of injuries this season. If he picked up, maybe Max Power or...
Well, Matthews went off, obviously injured, didn't he? And I wouldn't be surprised if that was partly down to the weather.
Yeah, we lost McGeoch in the summer as well. If you remember at Middlesbrough when it was the same sort of weather. So I think for us it probably was good because you're more likely to get injuries as well as the game goes on. Players get fatigued and, I think it was the right decision, I suppose. And we get a chance against an average Accrington Stanley team. Yeah,
you want to play on an even field, don't you? Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. So, anyway, to the game itself, though, who was the standout performer in the rain for you guys?
I don't know. To be fair, I think it was kind of probably a bit of a dull performance. I think mainly because of the weather, obviously. But no, I think Power looked good in the midfield again. His distribution, I think it could cause quite a dilemma when Lee Catmull comes back in, whether he plays Catmull and Power in midfield and potentially benches Honeyman. But I think that's something for him to make up.
It's interesting you bring up Honeyman there. I want to hear what all of you think of George Honeyman because he's a player that splits opinion, but I think he's been really good the last few weeks. But I don't know, where do you sit?
I can't understand the stick you get.
I think he works hard. Like, to be fair, like from the outset, he's always grafting and he's always putting in 100%.
He's just not a flashy player. Like everyone wants to see McGeady, who's going to take 3 or 4 players on, but he's obviously got a job to do, and I really can't understand the stick that he gets, especially being someone who's come through the academy. I think we're quite critical of people like that. I don't know why we don't adopt them. Obviously, people like
we're the first fans that say, right, give the young boys a chance.
Yeah. And then when they do come
don't
through,
set the world on fire. We're like, oh, wait, you get on top of
exactly. I mean, people like Pickford, but to be honest, I think it's more to do with his personality and the way he goes on. That people sort of have an affection for him. I just don't get why we don't be more supportive of our own, to be honest.
Henderson used to always get stick as well.
Yeah,
I was about to say that now. Like, Honeyman almost, he gets that same type of stick that like Henderson always gets, especially when he plays for England. Like, if you actually break it down and you see what he actually does in a game, he's probably, like, I know if in the Liverpool team, he's probably the first name on the sheet. Really.
The thing is as well, like, I don't know what it is with Henderson, but since he went to Liverpool, he still gets stick by seems to be the whole country.
Yeah.
I don't know whether that's an England thing, but it is strange how we don't really get behind our own more.
Yeah, no, it is weird. And I think Honeyman as well this season, I think there's been games, I think it was the Wickham game, it was his brilliance that got to a point. And
yeah, exactly.
people were like, yeah, but he didn't do anything else. And I was like, yeah, but nobody else did. Like, he's the
People
one who
use that
created
argument for Madrid as well. Like, well, I heard some bloke the
Yeah,
other
he
day.
gets loads of stick.
You go, well, all he does is score. What's wrong with that? Like,
I know, that's all you want.
Aye, take that problem any day of the week.
Is that the criticism of him? Like, all he does is score goals.
I think he's 19. He's going to have to learn how to improve. You know, he's going to have.
I mean,
to
to be honest, yesterday he was probably the standout person for being poor. He just didn't look interested, and I hope that's more to do with the weather than him wanting to be away.
Well, yeah, got that contract over his head, which is
seems to have dragged on a bit now.
They're not sorted that yet. No.
Him and Gooch, I think, are the main ones people are worried about. Gooch is particularly going under the radar. I don't know why people aren't getting upset about that. They're more bothered about Madge. I think Gooch is probably as important. But he has had, I would say, poor form recently, Madge. I think it's fair to say.
Oh, yeah.
He hasn't been great.
He's, like I say, he's certainly not sort of...
Every time I watch him, I always think he looks absolutely knackered.
I think it's the laid back sort of attitude. I mean, like Cameron Jones was like probably the most laid back player I've ever seen, but on his day he was unplayable. I think sometimes players just look like that. I don't think it's that they're not committed or they're not putting the effort in. It's just the style that they are.
There's a massive burden on him as well, though. If you like say he's only 19 years old. They've got no one else that they're going to play in front of him, so he's playing constantly.
And he's playing by default.
So he's obviously going to be tired, fatigued. You know, you play a lot of football in this league now. And for a young lad to have that much burden on your shoulders, playing a lot, it's going to take its toll.
But,
I mean, you know,
especially at a massive
the
club
have
like
tried
Sunderland.
Sinclair, and you know, he's just not cutting it, is he? So it just builds more pressure on Madge to think, right, well, I've got to be the man here.
And obviously White's injured as well.
And it just shows, it is, like, you can't blame him. He's a young lad, and like you say, like he's still scoring goals, even when he's not playing well. He's picking up a goal every game or every other
like
game.
Darren Bent, like sometimes he would be absolutely woeful and anonymous for
the whole
90 minutes, but then he'd score
He'd
two
score
and
a goal,
2-1. It's like you can't have it both ways all the time, because if you were world class and you scored every week, then you'd be a £90 million player, not playing for Sunderland in League One, would you?
did we all go to the game midweek, the Checker Trade Trophy game?
I didn't actually. It's a second game I missed this season. I didn't make it.
Just as we were talking about strikers, Sinclair played that game, and you know, people called for him to play, but he was poor in front of goal. Even when he was playing against lower opposition, where he was able to get past them and run in behind, he still has no end product. Whereas Madge, for all he, you know, might not hold the ball up as well as you'd like, or won't chase the ball down the channel, if you put the ball to him within 20 yards of the goal, he's got a really good chance of scoring. I think fans need to sort of remember that. You know, when you compare strikers, it's all well and good having a striker who doesn't score but runs about a lot. What's the point?
Yeah, I think Sinclair's a bit
He
like
doesn't
Altidore
score.
to me. Like,
Very similar. Yeah, it's a good
I
comparison.
want him to do well, but
I do think he works hard though as a footballer. Like every
He
time
does.
I see him play, he's putting in 100%. I just think
he's got a purpose. I think Jack Ross has started bringing him on with sort of 10 minutes to go when maybe he's under the cosh a bit.
He's
and I
better,
think-
better suited away from home, I think, as well, Sinclair.
Yeah, maybe he's when you're more likely to be under the cosh and you're probably only 1-0 up or drawn or whatever.
He's a better outlet ball, I think. He's
Yeah,
a better, you know, if you want to hit a 50-yard long ball up to somebody, you'd rather it was Sinclair than Madge.
Yeah.
That much is obvious.
That is his purpose. That's
when we
his-
get White back,
do you think
Sinclair's
there's
going to be irrelevant.
now? Do you think there could be space for both of them?
Sinclair and Madge.
Yeah,
That's never worked when they've tried
do you
it.
not think?
I don't know. I think
It hasn't been given much of a choice, but he just doesn't seem to want to
yeah.
play two up front, so it's never going to be
They
enough.
tried it at Burton. It was White and Madge, and it just was a
Right,
conflict.
it's the only game we got beat.
Yeah, so I don't know if it would be worth doing it again. I'm not sure. And also, I think the attacking three that we have behind the striker works really well at the minute. I really like Gooch, I really like Maguire, McGeady, Honeyman, and well, even though Honeyman's dropped deep, I like, but I don't think you'd want to change that.
Well, that's the thing. To play an extra striker, you've got to take somebody out of the midfield, and who would you drop?
I think that's where they're getting the goals from, and like the three behind the front striker as it is. I think, you know, they're the class in the team since McGeady started playing. You can tell he's different class for League One, really, isn't he?
Well, yeah.
Maguire's been outstanding. Everyone knows that. And like say Honeyman and Gooch, that's probably 5-6 weeks have been, you know, they've been up there as good as anyone else. So I think to play that extra striker and have two up front, I might say haven't tried it, but don't really want to change what's working, do I?
I think if you go two up front as well, you lose the extra attacking player, but then it maybe makes you less dangerous because you're losing 4 potential goal scorers when you're playing that 3 behind and the striker. You play 2 up front, then you've got Sinclair, who we know isn't great in front of goal, and you're relying pretty much solely on Madja then, because the wingers are going to have to do far more defensively when you've got two up front. So, I don't know, I just don't think it would work. Max Power has finally played some games, finally strung a few together. How important is he going forward now, and how good was he yesterday, in your opinion? You said, Carsey, that he was your star player. So, how important has he been?
I think just every time I have watched him play, I think his energy that he brings to the team, especially in midfield, is positive. I do think it's going to create a little bit of a dilemma when Catmull comes back, like I said earlier on, whether or not he retains his position in the team. But I think just from watching him, I think he's going to play an important part in Sunderland's season. So hopefully he continues his form.
Who do you think is the preferred midfield options? We've never had a fully fit central midfield this season, Chris, but what do you make of what we've got in there?
It's a tough one because, like you say, you haven't had them all to choose from, so you haven't all played with each other. I think what Power's shown when you watch him play, he's very calm on the ball. He almost brings a calmness to the team. He can pick a pass out. He knows what's going on in front of him. I guess when you look at what's happened the last few weeks, the fact he didn't get booked or sent off in those conditions, you think, well, he does have a sensible head on him, but he's got that that wild card moment in him. But when you watch him on the ball, he is calm under pressure. He seems to slow play down. He gets people under control. So I think he's got to keep his place with him and Catmull in that midfield, and then you've got the attacking blokes out wide. I think that's probably, if you look at that, you think, that's a solid midfield. That.
And what about McGeoch? Do you think he maybe been a bit underwhelming? Is that fair to say?
I'm yet to be impressed by him. I know he's come down, and you watch him playing. He doesn't seem to do anything spectacular for the ratings he's had previously.
I think that's sort of his job, though. I think he doesn't do anything spectacular, but I think there's a place for somebody like that in the team.
Do you think would you play him, Power and Catmull in the same?
I don't know. Like you said, it's a dilemma, and to be honest, we've never really had those three as an option at once. But I don't think he's a bad player, and I think he does serve his purpose. To be honest, when I watched him in pre-season before he got injured, so I think was it the Darlington game, his first game, and then up at St Mirren, he was the standout performer for me, across the whole team in pre-season, and he looked an absolute class act. And it wasn't anything spectacular that he'd done. He was dead comfortable on the ball. And he's probably never really reached that level since he started playing league games. But because I've now seen that, I'm sort of giving him a bit of the benefit of the doubt.
I think if you watched just him, watch what he did in the game, I think you would be surprised, because I made a point a few weeks ago of actually right, I'm going to take notice of what he's doing. And the amount of times he makes, defensive headers, positionally just in the right place to stop a ball going through. I think they're the things that you don't realise if you're just watching the ball.
The game.
He does a lot of sweeping up. He's a proper defensive midfielder.
Yeah, he won't. I don't think he's ever going to score a goal.
He's not going to drive forward and dictate the play attacking wise, but he seems to always be the bloke who's mopping up.
Yeah, I think we've got Catmull now, who actually does look like an attacking threat, which I think proves how better he is than that level, because when he's in the Premier League, he was never ever scored a couple of goals, didn't he? But now he actually looks like a threat. He's getting in the box, he's driving play, and I think he has to be probably the first name on the team sheet when he's fully fit.
For me, 100%, definitely. I think
so.
He's
where do you think
second name McLaughlin's first name?
Yeah.
Where do you think that leaves Honeyman then?
I think Honeyman would
Do you think he deserves to be starting most weeks if Catmull's back?
I think you put him in the number 10. I think you play it like you did at the start of the year, because I think Cats and Power, they have played together when Power's obviously not been suspended. I think you just play Honeyman slightly further forward. I'm surprised as how well he's done further back, to be honest. I didn't see him being a proper central midfielder. He has done really well. But I see him as being the number 10, like he was earlier in the season.
But then is it a coincidence that he's performed better more recently? So is he actually more suited to dropping deeper than he is?
Well, he could be. Why not play them as a 3 then? And just say, Honeyman, you're slightly more advanced. And then you can get Max Power further forward as well, because he actually is very box to box. Sometimes I think he's in a 2 with somebody else further ahead. He's a bit more restricted. So it might make sense to maybe play them as, rather than a 2 and then 3 behind, playing an actual 4 sort of 3-3, I suppose.
Yeah, I'd rather have power popping up on the edge of the box for a pot shot than
like that header he scored against Scunthorpe.
Yeah. He had a shot yesterday as well, which just went past the post, which I couldn't really see any of our other players doing that.
He's like the perfect League One player, I think, apart from his discipline.
Which is weird because he'd never been sent off before.
Yeah.
But as well, you look at that, one got overturned, one was very dubious, and one obviously you can't argue against, but I think he's been unlucky more than anything, to be honest.
So we talked a little bit about contracts before, but I sort of want to, get your perspectives on it because, you're a professional sportsman. What are contract negotiations like in their situation? Obviously, you might be a little bit different to them, but, what is Josh Madger getting told by his agent? What is actually going on behind the scenes?
I think because he's such a young bloke, his best interest has got to be football. Like, obviously, when contracts come up for any sportsman, everyone's initial thought is money. What's he getting offered? Like, what's he on now? But for a young lad who's doing quite well, football's got to be in his best interest. And for him, scoring goals, playing week in, week out, in a team that's doing quite well, unless there is people in the background, like, look, we can give you this, you're going to play at a higher level. He's in a tricky situation, but he's making his name in a team that, like I said, that's doing well, and he's playing week in, week out, so his football can only get better.
But if you're Josh Madger and somebody says, right, Sunderland's offered you $8,000 a week, but Bristol City's offering you 15, how do you say no? Or do you say no, if that's the option?
Well, you could put, I don't know, you could put something in your contract. Look, we'll offer you $8,000 a week. If we get promoted,
it goes up.
That goes up to, I don't know, $16,000 a week. You can get X amount in bonuses, appearances, goals, that kind of stuff. So your potential earnings can obviously increase. The better you do, you can earn more money. Like I say, touch wood, I was disappointed if we didn't have a strong chance of promotion. Surely at a play, you want to win things and you want to help teams do well. So to go through that's got to be an ambition, surely.
Would you use Joel Asoro as an example if you were Stuart
100%. We've spoke about him for the last 2 weeks.
Is he available for going? I'm sure I read somewhere that they were open to going him out. And
I don't think he scored yet.
I think he got 1 assist when he first joined, but surely he's looking at him thinking, well, the grass isn't always greener.
Yeah,
might have a bigger pocket, but
I mean, imagine if we.
But you say that like, so Joel Asoro, he would have been on a couple of grand a week at Sunderland. He's now moved to Swansea and he'll be on what?
15, maybe.
10, 15 grand.
15, yeah.
I was actually having this conversation with someone during the week where football, like the wages that they pay out to players, you sometimes think it could be potentially, you can be lost in the system a lot more in football compared to other professional sport because of the amount of money that you're getting. So if you're a footballer and you're getting 10, 15 grand a week at a championship side and you're on the bench, do you have drive to get better as a player? Whereas potentially maybe in different sports where you're not getting that much money, there's a little bit more drive there. Do you think, do you understand where I'm coming from?
I do. That's got to be down to personal ambition.
Yeah,
Every individual is totally
sometimes
different.
I think sometimes that it can be a lot easier to get lost in a system as a young footballer if you're getting paid that much money.
Oh, definitely, you can get blindsided by pound signs.
Yeah.
But
whereas, like, I don't know if that's maybe what's happened to him. Whereas, surely there's got to be a part of him now that's sitting where he is now thinking, have I maybe made the wrong mistake? Whereas, if I just spent another year at Sunderland, I'd be playing week in, week out, playing 90 minutes of football.
Probably in the same league as Swansea.
And hopefully I'd like to think going back up to the Championship next year. But then again, you don't know the ins and outs of his clauses and his agents and this and that. You know, he could have had an agent whispering things into his ear saying this and that.
It's easy to say this as well when none of us earn 15 grand a week or have had the option to.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I think until you're in that situation, it's easy for us to say, well, why has he gone there? Why has he gone to Swansea instead of Sunderland? Like, I know he's earning more money, but blah, blah, blah. But until somebody actually puts that in front of you and says, you could be earning this, I don't think any of us can really say what you would do.
Yeah, I think
he's got no allegiance to Sunderland, really.
He's
a Swedish lad who would signed as a young'un, would gone down, he'd watched us go down twice. I think he's probably thought, I'm going to get out of here, like, and I can go and get more money for it now.
How different do you have agents as cricketers?
Mm-hmm.
How different are they to football agents, or are they the same?
I wouldn't know. Obviously, some agents look after both. We actually have the same agent. And it's easy for me to say it's all agents play a big part, but ultimately the decision's down to you as a player, whether you're a footballer, cricketer, whatever sport you play. Your agent might advise you on this, offers from elsewhere, but if you really don't want to make that decision or that move, you won't do it. It's what you want personally.
And I don't want this to sound like a really personal question, but why do you have an agent? Like, what's the purpose to have an agent compared to if you didn't have one? I mean, how different would your life be if you didn't have an agent?
Me, being an older player, probably not a big difference. But for young lads, I think, there's a lot more money in things. There's a bigger influence from financial side of the game, in cricket especially. And it's not just money, but it's like lifestyle things. There's a lot of advice in a lot of areas where agents can help out and give advice, and helping out with things like mortgages and insurance, like a lot of other things other than just your cricket contract. There's a lot of advice and help that they give you.
So do you think in football, do you think the agents have had a negative impact, or do you think they've still got a purpose that maybe people like me just don't understand?
They've definitely got a purpose. Without doubt, they've got a purpose. You want to hope and you want to think that agents, yes, they have to make a living themselves, but they're not just making deals solely on like their selfish reasons.
So theoretically, let's imagine, right, you're at Durham and Kent come in for you, and I know we're putting this in like a football perspective, it probably wouldn't happen, but Kent come in and they say, right, we're going to offer you this, and then you find out your agent gets, I don't know, a huge bonus, a signing bonus kind of thing, an agent fee. How does that make you feel, as a person, that your agents kind of used you for money? And surely footballers must think like that as well.
Footballers, obviously, everyone's aware that that's going to happen. And I guess if that signing on fee to the agent came out of your salary or your pocket, then that probably would affect you.
But would you not think like that, though? If your agent got, say, 100 grand, I would think, well, that 100 grand should be mine. I mean, as a footballer, I just wonder when, agents are so dominant, especially somebody like Joel Osoro, who it was obvious the agent was going for that move. Would Joel Osoro not think, well, how much money's he got, and that should be my money? Because that's how I would think. But I don't know if I'm just because I'm just not in that world.
But you could also think, well, this move would never have come about without him.
That's true.
I think football, you've got to remember it's on its own scale in financial terms. Like cricket is on it's a much, much, much smaller scale financially. So for us to kind of think, would that happen? It's hard to understand, and just because we're not in that world. But let's be honest, for a footballer, 100 grand over a year, it's peanuts in it. So does it really make that much difference to a player? Like Matty said, like would a player earn his 15 grand a week if it wasn't for his agent?
What do you think the comparable is for Durham? Is it, if in terms of size, are they like a League 2, League 1 sort of football club in terms of infrastructure?
It's obviously a totally different sport, and it's really hard to kind of say that, but I'd imagine so, sort of, on financial terms.
Right, back to Sunderland anyway. We'll jump off the contract talk. I'll just get upset that Madge might be leaving and Gooch. So the Newcastle under 21 checker trade game, I think everyone's got mixed views on what this is. I think it's a disgrace, to be honest. I'd rather we weren't playing it, but what do you guys think? What do you think, Carsey?
I think apart from we obviously going to win, I think it's a win-win for Newcastle. I think if we do beat them, they can turn around and say, oh, it's our under-21s, under-23s, whatever. Whereas if they beat us, it's a big hoo-ha party for them. But look, it is what it is. I think Sunderland will put out a strong team. I just hope we don't get beat.
Do you think is it embarrassing?
I think it is.
Should
it's a sort of horrible reminder of where we are.
It's the worst thing that could happen, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the worst draw. I would have even played them away. Because then sort of the onus is on them, and we're just, like you said, we can't win. There's no way we can win. We just need to be professional, play the game, turn up, win comfortably, and then forget it ever happened.
But what do you think? How many people are going to go? Is it going to be?
That's a worrying thing.
This is what I said to Matty over the weekend. I said it'll be interesting to see what sort of numbers turn out and like how many tickets Sunderland do give to them, because at the end of the day, it is, although it's not like we don't want to see it as a derby, it is Sunderland versus Newcastle. So
there's always an extra edge.
Yeah.
But like from going to sort of reserve games in the past, you get a certain type of crowd and attendee. And I can just say being like that, I think it's obviously depending on policing, they could potentially have thousands of tickets, which then means people who wouldn't normally go will go, and you probably know what I mean. There's cup games, there's always sort of a bit of a weird element to it.
Do you think it'll be like, will they treat it as a £3 game as they have the previous rounds? Will they try? I think
they should try and make people go, because to be honest, me, like, it doesn't even have any extra bite to me. Like,
no, I don't care.
I really don't. Obviously, I want to win the game because I'm a Sunderland fan, but I really don't care about it. Like, I'm not going to be treating it like a derby day. It's just a thing I don't want to happen, but is. Do
you think Jack Ross should maybe play his under-21s?
I would say no. I think Sunderland, we're doing well. Why would you upset a team that are doing well just for the sake of one fixture that, fair enough, not everyone might be happy with, but it's a first team fixture. It's not a great cup, but it's a cup. It's a chance to keep players in form, doing well. So I think, like Mike said, you turn out, play the game, win comfortably, move on. For me,
just get it over and
just forget
it. Definitely, definitely.
I want to win the cup as well. I mean, I want to go up as league champions and
go Wembley
and win the cup. I mean, we shouldn't be here, but if we're going to be here, we might as well win everything.
Do you think that? How many people do you think will go? Do you think it will be a 30, 40, a full house?
Nah, I think 20. I think it'll be lower than a normal league game. So, because I think a lot of people have the same opinion. They don't really care.
But then I think, it'll bring out people that don't necessarily turn up on Saturday to watch a League One game. They'll see Sunderland Newcastle, and you'll get all the people that aren't big Sunderland fans. They'll think, right, I'm going to a derby. There's a chance of
there'll be loads of bother.
There's a chance of a bit of a
bit frisk.
Afterwards.
People. The thing is, the sad thing is, people go for that.
Exactly. So I think
maybe it's
sad to think, but that probably will attract a reasonable crowd.
Do you think Newcastle? I mean, they'll want to bring as many as they can.
See, this is where they could contradict themselves. So they pretend they don't care, and it's only their.
And we all care because obviously it's a derby. I mean, it's silly
and it's a Sunderland game. You're going to want to win it, but they'll say, it's only our young'uns, blah blah. But then if they tip up with 8,000 people there, and you think, well, hang on, you do care, then, don't you?
Well, that's why it's a win-win for Newcastle, I think, because
potentially,
there's no other way out for it, really.
Yeah.
Is there any way? And that's a home game, so it's tough, and it's a Czech Trade Trophy game, so it's even tougher. But is there any way of, I don't know, somehow policing it, as in treat it like a
proper
derby? You need X amount of loyalty points, or rather than just having every Tom, Dick, and Harry from round the corner who think, right, I'm gonna watch a bit of football.
I'd imagine season ticket holders for home fans will get priority on tickets, whereas normally anyone can just buy a cup ticket.
I don't think they would sell them to people without purchase history, because you wouldn't want Newcastle fans. If you give, say, Newcastle 4,000 tickets, there'll be more than 4,000 who want to get in. You don't want them in the home end. So I don't know. Do you give them the top tier and just let them sit? I honestly don't.
I think you should do it in stages, so a bit like what Blackpool have done with us. They've give away 2,800 or whatever, sold that.
Yeah.
I think we should give them and then see how our ticket sales go, see what our demand is. Thing is, it's a money making opportunity at the end of the day. We're not oil rich.
You can't turn away the chance.
So why would you say right now you're not bringing another 4,000 people? It's £20 a ticket or whatever it's going to be.
Did you see Port Vale? They played Stoke under 21s. That's their derby.
And I saw that.
Yeah, but Port Vale put their first team out and just killed them. I think it was 4-0 or something was the final score. So in some ways, I kind of hope we just do that. I kind of hope Sunderland just professional about it. They win very comfortably, and we all forget about it ever happening.
But taking the emotion out of it and the scenario, why wouldn't you want to win the game? Like it's a fixture that you want to win to go through the next round of the cup. It doesn't matter who you're playing; you should want to win every game. So I wouldn't be messing about playing our under-21s or whatever, because it's a bit of an embarrassing thing to do.
But on Tuesday he played. He made 10 changes at the weekend, which shows how many changes he made for the Tuesday night game. So will he play that sort of team?
That's the thing. I don't know whether he's going to continue with his checker trade team, so to speak.
Because it's not fair on them to technically miss out when they've got this far. So
the thing is, though, you should back that team to beat an under-21 side anyway. Like,
you would hope.
It's still got some decent players in it.
It's a scary situation.
And then also, if we then play the strongest team we've got, then it also looks a bit like, you're only doing that because it's Newcastle and you're scared of it, type of thing.
Yeah.
The best thing is just to play the game, get the 3 points, and get it done with.
Points.
Really.
The cup, man.
I cup.
Midweek, we've got FA Cup second round replay. Not a very exciting fixture. It's the third time we've played Walsall within 3 weeks, so it's not the best of games. But how do you think Jack Ross will approach this now when we've got 2 rearranged games coming up as well? We've got the Checker Trade Trophy, which hopefully will go all the way in. Does he make changes? Does he keep this cup as a priority, as he did in the earlier rounds where he did have put his first team out? What do you think he should do midweek?
It's tough, isn't it? Like say, got all these rearranged fixtures. Christmas is busy as it is without adding, abandoned games and that on top. I think it is tough. Are we realistically going to go on to you want to dream and you want to progress in the effort, but are we going to, we've got to potentially win this.
Get Bolton away.
Bolton away.
Which
that's another winnable game. So then you can go to that round. Do you go, right, well, let's try and get as far as we can? Or do you, at some stage, you got to look and think, right, we've got a massive congested fixture list. We want to get promoted. That's got to be the number one.
One of the reasons I think I want to take it seriously is I think Bolton in the FA Cup is actually a good measuring stick for it. Going away there to a poor championship side, but a side that's probably going to avoid relegation. That'll see where we're at with the team. So in some ways, I sort of want Wood to get through this one, so we'll get to play that game.
Yeah, no, I don't mind the draw that we've been given. I just think I just really don't want to build up with games at the end of the season, when, especially if it looks like we're going to have to keep winning them, because Pompey don't seem to drop any points every time I check the score.
Yeah,
they've won again. I just really don't want us to be 10 points behind and we might have 4 games in hand, which then means you could be above them, but just psychologically I'd rather not have that.
But you don't want them 4 games in hand to be must-win games.
That's what I mean, yeah. That's what I mean.
We're very comfortably in the playoffs at the minute. I was looking at the table before, but Luton seem to keep winning. They've just seemed to have came from nowhere. Obviously, we've got 2 games in hand.
Looks a decent point at Luton.
It does
in
now.
Retrospect.
At the start of the season, we're like, newly promoted team, not great. But Luton are kind of on a roll at the minute. I think Portsmouth obviously just always win. But Barnsley seem to be slipping. Peterborough slipping as well.
Walsall slipped there.
It looks like it's going to be 2 of the 3, isn't it? I think Luton, it's fair to say, are proper contenders now, I think, at this stage. So is this now an unnecessary distraction, having all these cup games?
Potentially. I mean, you're not going to win it, are you? So other than financially, what's the...
Which cup, obviously, the FA Cup's obviously got more money in it, but how much financial reward does Sunderland gain if they do quite well in the checker trade?
Could be worth a player, probably. It might get maybe £1 million by the end after going through all the...
If they're to win
I wouldn't have thought that much, to be honest.
I don't know, if you add up all the prize money, gate money from all the rounds.
Oh, right, yeah.
Then you probably do make about...
Yeah, if you're including gates and things as well.
Yeah, you probably do make enough to make it worthwhile. I know that the Premier League's in because they pay a silly amount to be involved, which is why we'll get these B teams.
Thing is, it's obviously worth a lot more to the lesser teams than it is to us.
I think that's the hard thing about potentially being a manager, really, because obviously you want to win every game, but at the end of the day, he's got a squad that he's got to obviously manage his players and keep fit for potentially more important games to come in the season, where if he's gonna rest certain players in a cup game for them to benefit on a league game on a Saturday, then that's obviously the most important thing. Then
this is where I think we should shine through as a better squad and team, because could the likes of, I don't know, without belittling anybody and singling them out, but could Accrington make 10 changes for a checker trade game and then still turn up and win 2-0? I think we should really sort of shine through on that, where we've got a squad where people are capable to step in. Might be third choice on a league game, but you can come in and play all right and win.
Yeah, I mean, we look at like Luke O'Nine. He's paid good money for him. Luton wanted him in the summer, and
he'd be a starter for everyone else. Yeah, and he's a good player for us to bring on. But
we're not playing like Dylan McGeoch and Jerome Sinclair, and insert pretty much the full squad and say Glenn Lubens was at Sheffield Wednesday last year. He kind of get in the team.
Yeah.
So we do have a lot of strength and depth. So I think midweek probably could do with making a few changes, especially with how difficult that game on Saturday would have been on the legs.
Yeah.
I imagine there's quite a lot of fatigue players, even though we only played 75 minutes. Saturday, we've got Bristol Rovers, which is our first league meeting since 1992-3. Chris, do you remember
that? No.
Blackburn fan then, weren't you?
I would have been. No, it would have been Man United.
Man United then.
Yeah. Last time we faced them, though, it was in the League Cup in 2001. We won 2-1. Random bit of trivia there. Don Hutchison scored. So, what can we expect from them? We've seen we're sort of trounced Southend, Rochdale, Scunthorpe, but then we've also struggled against Wickham, Oxford. Is this one going to be more like Southend, Rochdale, Scunthorpe? I mean, Bristol Rovers are really struggling at the minute. I think they've lost the last 5 games. So
it's a game where you should just turn up and win comfortably like those games, but the form doesn't really account for a lot. I mean, obviously it's a big cliche and everyone keeps saying it, but teams do raise the game against us. Come to the stadium, like, it's a big day out and a big occasion for them without sounding like big-headed and cocky, but I think the form doesn't actually count for a lot.
Look at the way Wickham reacted.
Well,
it was huge for them, and it probably was the biggest league result they've had.
Yeah.
Going away from
So I think the form doesn't really count for a lot, which is why we just need to be dead professional, just play our normal game, and it should prevail.
And Carsey, you got a season. Do you go to all the home games?
I do, yes.
What have you made of the games at the stadium? Like, it's been very, I would say, almost chalk and cheese. There's been games where we've just
look,
hammered teams.
Obviously, I think every team that does come to Sunderland obviously treats it like their cup final. I think every time I look at a home fixture, you've got to think that it's a guaranteed 3 points of like just who we're playing against. So yeah, I enjoy it. It's good.
How much better is it than last season? A lot better.
A lot better, yeah. A lot better. Obviously, watching Sunderland now the last 4 or 5 years.
Maybe you're the problem. Maybe it's your fault. You came in when 2030. When was your first games?
2014.
My first game was West Brom at home, 2014.
So is that the one we won?
Yeah, we won.
Pretty much stayed up.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe you're not bad luck then.
No,
I don't know. It was all downhill after that. Like
I say, it was the start of the demise, wasn't it?
Well, at the end of the day, I haven't seen Newcastle. I mean, I haven't seen Sunderland lose a derby, so that's the main thing.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But then again, that's only been 10 years. You might not have even been at Durham. Been that long.
Nah, 2011 was it?
I was there. I remember. If you pick one game that can sum up the whole season so far, the Barnsley game the other Tuesday, literally it was like watching Brazil for half an hour, wasn't it? And everyone's thinking we're going to win 5-6-0 here. This is mint. And all of a sudden, we think, "Crikey, we're going to get beat 5-3 here." Like, I think that's the way the season's been.
It was a crazy game.
In 90 minutes, that was how Sunderland have played this year. The boss teams off the park, they relax, sit back, and then teams get on top of them, give away silly goals, and all of a sudden, we came out 4-2, which looked comfortable, but it never felt like that.
It's this level as well. I mean, look at us the other week at Walsall with 10 men, 2-0 down. Normally that game would be dead in other leagues, but we got something out of it. And I think teams 3-0 down at the stadium, obviously they still thought, like, well, we'll just have a go, and it nearly paid off for them. I was really nervous.
We've been down to 10 men 4 times, never got beat.
And never got beat.
It's quite impressive.
When we 1-0 down to Oxford when...
Yeah,
and
pretty much the full game. I think with 60 minutes with 10 men that day.
And we 1-0 down when we were 10, so we came back again.
We're going to do a little bit now on cricket. So this is the bit where I really should just shut up. I mean, all I know really is Freddie Flintoff's quite funny on the telly. I don't know if you agree. Is he annoying? Is he funny?
Nah, he's alright, Freddie.
Yeah. So you'll know Freddie? Do you?
I've met him quite a lot. I've spoke to him quite a bit.
Big fan. Preston fan, isn't he?
He is, nah, very, very good man. Funny guy.
I listen to his podcast.
Nah, he is funny, naturally funny.
So first things first, how did things go for Durham this past season? And just clarify when you play for people who know nothing about cricket.
Look, obviously a disappointing year. I think at the start of every season you always have objectives and goals that you want to set, and I think when we got relegated 2 years ago from Division 1, I think people were probably a little bit too optimistic of wanting to go straight back up, where it was probably going to be slightly more difficult than anticipated. But looking back at the season, I think we had a successful run in the T20 competition. And that's something to build on. Obviously, I think from the start of that tournament, we were potentially written like we weren't really regarded as one of the favourites, where I think
40-1.
Yeah, I think with a young team, inexperienced players probably not used to playing at that standard. I think we did really well as a squad. Struggled a little bit in the championship, but I think it's a whole learning curve, really. I think with a young squad now that Durham has, I think we can only get better.
What's the difference in quality between the top division and the second division?
Probably strength and depth. I think obviously Carsey's touched on the season. For most of the listeners, I'm guessing a lot of them aren't like cricket buffs, you know. So just people have to understand. So Durham got relegated 2 years ago, and it wasn't because we finished at the bottom of the table. We were hit by financial, you know, we were in financial crisis or whatever, and we got relegated by the governing body. So we got relegated, got docked a huge amount of points. So we started the next season on a massive deficit. And, you know, the season we got relegated, we finished fourth in the top division, which is a very good effort considering we did have a young team, no overseas players. Was a good effort, but we got relegated and then started the next season bottom of Division 2 minus 50 points. Like, for anyone that doesn't know, that's a hell of a long way back. So we're kind of now just getting back to that financial stability. So we've lost quite a few of our best players. We've had a massive salary cap, which is, you know, it's affected our ability to sign players and get people in for various tournaments and things. So now we're in a stable position. Things are looking up. We've got a squad that have played 2 years now, have gained more experience, which everyone's going to be better for. So the club as a whole is on the way up. You know, it's very similar to how Sunderland are. You know, we had a bad period. Things have now stabilised, and we're building from the bottom, and we're getting there. So hopefully our season next year is a bit like this one in League One.
So you're looking for promotion? Promotion
is the aim, 100%. Normally two go up, two go down. But next year they're trying to change the amount of teams in the top division and the second to even them out. So there's 3 teams get promoted out of 9. This year out of 10, I think it is actually Division 2. So this year we've got a stronger chance than any to get promoted. So we have to have that as a number one priority.
And what's your sort of favoured way to play cricket? Obviously 2020 is arguably the most popular. Is it fair to say? Do you prefer that?
I think as a bowler, I think 2020 cricket isn't great fun. It's obviously more difficult than, like, you got to execute your skills better. I've only played a lot of championship cricket, like, compared to white ball cricket, so I probably haven't had that much experience in the white ball game, but I think it's definitely something that you want to be a part of. 2020 cricket, 50 over cricket, I think it attracts the most crowds, it's the most excitement, it's quick, it's over quickly, and yeah, it's a lot of fun, I think.
Do you think it's for people like me, like the 5 days, I occasionally like watch the Ashes and stuff, and I'll play Football Manager and have the Ashes on in the background?
Bit like Matty.
Yeah. It's a bit daunting. Like the idea of 5 days is a viewer, it's like starting a Netflix series and it's got 9 series and you know at the start and you're like, oh, that's a long way to go to get through it. Do you think that's part of the issue? People just...
Well, commercially, I mean, T20 is the way the game's going. There's now this 100 ball tournament you might have heard of. It's like they've basically reinvented the wheel. Because that's the way the world's moving towards. Obviously, a new generation of younger kids coming through. For an example, we had 8,000 for the Yorkshire T20 game, play them in the Championship and you'd have 500. And it's sort of now become a totally different game. And I think people like yourself, who obviously aren't a massive cricket fan, but you'll dabble in it and you'll watch it now, you're probably not going to spend 5 days watching cricket, but if you're being brought up with it, like obviously we all have, sort of thing, you have a different outlook on it, so it's not weird or like I think Chris will probably tell you, like, he loved playing like a Championship cricket game, but watching it's different if you're not a massive cricket fan.
What do you think, Chris? Is 2020 going to be the future, I suppose, or is it even, the present?
It's definitely the present. You can't argue with, stats and figures and things like that. I guess this new 100 England, our ECB, the governing body, that's what we're starting. So that, they want that to be the future. Look, like Carsey said, as a bowler, we're both bowlers, opening bowlers. It's hard work, but it is still fun. Like, to turn up to a 2020 at Durham Chesley Street on a Friday night, and there's 8,000 people there. Like, what's not to like? The screaming kids everywhere, and that for a young cricketer playing in Chesley Street, you don't see it. So it is good. It's entertaining, and it is what people want. I love playing 4-day cricket, just purely because if you can win a game after 4 days, there's a lot of hard work goes into it, and when you win them, it's bloody hard work to win. But at the same, you can win a game in an hour and a half in a 2020. Yeah, it's totally different. But you can't argue with audience and figures financially. T20s has brought in massive crowds around the world.
And what do you think cricket can do to attract somebody like me who is, this country is football obsessed, and then there's maybe a small amount like rugby, a small amount like cricket, somewhat like rugby league. What can you do to attract that casual crowd who, I've never been to a Durham cricket game. I do watch cricket on the telly occasionally, but I've never, I don't really know when to play. I don't really know.
I should get better at my job then, shouldn't I?
I know. You're asking the right man, is it?
No, what do you think you can do though to sort of...
So the reason... The last couple of years, we've had a big surge in attendances. So for a T20 game, obviously it depends on the fixture, the day of the week, that sort of thing. But you'd be looking at sort of 3,500 to 4,000, I reckon, for a normal game. We hit our highest ever attendance for a Durham game this year, which was the Yorkshire Derby, around about 8,000. But we've got a big onus on sort of family audiences now, so we have a family zone there, and we sort of recognise that we have to kind of, because this is the next generation coming through, we need to get them involved as early as possible. There's a big initiative with the ECB with an all-stars scheme, so they join the local cricket club, they play it. So it's up to us to then get them to watch it. So I think in years gone by, T20 cricket in particular has had this reputation for being just like lads on the drink, and it's dead leery, which there is that element there. There's always going to be that sort of thing, but to move towards families is the future, and that's why we've had a big sort of surge in attendances. I think a lot of people, I'd probably say 50% of people who go to cricket T20 games aren't there for the cricket, which you may have an opinion on that, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, but we're getting people through the door, and then hopefully the aim is to convert them into actually wanting to go because of the cricket.
And I was reading as well about sort of travel links as well. If I'm based up in Northumberland, so my closest cricket team would be Durham. What are the links like to get there? If our listeners want to go down and they live in, say, Sunderland, how do you get to a...
Yeah, obviously, because of where we are, it's always going to be geographically challenging. We are sort of out in the sticks. If you plonk that cricket ground in the middle of Sunderland, Durham, Newcastle would be laughing. There's a train station, Chesley Street, direct links to Newcastle, not Sunderland. There's a bus that stops outside the ground from Sunderland. Same with Durham. But one thing I've done over the last couple of years, I've sort of tried to speak to all the local cricket clubs and run free buses to the games if they buy X amount of tickets. So we're trying to improve all the links, but obviously you've got to work with the bus company, the train lines, and it's up to them whether they're going to provide you with a train or a bus. So it is challenging because of where we are. It's always going to be the case.
Is there any park and ride?
Yeah, not for normal Durham games, unless it's a big game where we know we're going to have a big crowd. But England games there's park and ride in Durham, Newcastle, Sunderland. So we do try and improve because of where we are. We're always going to have that challenge. So we try and put as many things on as we can. But it costs money, doesn't it? That's
life, money.
Yeah.
Is there any England tests? As I read a few years ago that Durham wasn't getting any, or wasn't in the schedule until 2019.
We've got the World Cup coming to England next year, so that's just a one-day format, so not a test match. But we have England, New Zealand at Chesley Street, and 2 South African games. Actually.
When's that?
It starts July next year.
So pretty soon.
Yeah. So there's a trophy tour at the moment, so the trophy's going all around the world, and it arrives in England at the start next year, and then makes its way to each of the venues. So it's a big thing for the area. Like, I mean, Chesley Street, it just happens to be where I'm from. To have a World Cup in Chesley Street is quite mind-blowing to me.
Yeah.
Growing up there, and then all of a sudden you've got a World Cup there. It's mad.
And regular season starts?
First game's 5th of April, which is the county championship. So that's the 4-day format. But then obviously there's the 3 competitions. So there's the county championship, the T20 and the Royal London Cup, which is 50 overs. They're kind of drip fed in throughout the season. It runs like April to September.
Hopefully we'll get a nice summer. Actually, this summer would have been really nice for you.
Yeah, this summer.
Well, that's another challenge, the weather up here. Like,
yeah.
Even in the country, like Hampshire, obviously down in the south, a bit of an advantage to us.
Yeah.
But just have to win every game.
Fair play. You got any final remarks before we sign off for the day? I think we've done about an hour, so I think
no. Thanks for having us.
Yeah,
Good
thank
stuff.
you. Thanks for having us on.
I think Wednesday we've got Matty Piper dropping, former Sunderland player. Remember Matty Piper?
Yeah.
Didn't play that often.
I was going to say, I don't
dodgy
remember
knees.
much.
He had 15 knee operations.
15?
Yeah. Basically had
Not just while he was here, because it felt like it.
No, he's whole. He's just had one recently. But
for someone who was
15.
I remember he was quick on the wing, wasn't he? Like,
he was a good player. It was,
he was
frustrating.
He was telling us he basically should never have been a footballer. Like, his kneecap used to slide when he turned quickly, so he just used to keep doing the same injury all the time, and he never used to understand why. And it was.
And we've got him twisting about one.
I know, I got 14 to go.
I was going to say he probably only had about 4 by that so I'm sure you'll be all right. So that drops Wednesday. Sunday we'll have our usual Bristol Rovers review, and then there'll be the extra podcast midweek. And I think that's all the housekeeping I have to take care of.
Just one thing to mention, I'll do it for you. It's your benefit year next year. Do you want to talk about that?
Testimonial year.
Yeah.
So I've been at Durham for 10 years. It will be next year. So I'm lucky enough to have been given a testimonial year. So throughout 2019, I've got a huge range of events and things like that. Matty's helping us to try and, at the minute, we're trying to put together a Sunderland event, a talk in with some ex players, hopefully some big names to come up at the Stadium of Light. So if people keep an eye on that, just search for Chris Rushworth Testimonial 2019 on Twitter. And it'll bring up all the list of events we've got planned so far, and if people can follow and join in where and if you can, it'd be much appreciated.
Will you get a game? Do you do it like football? Do you get like a?
There's a few cricket games planned. There's one which is going to be, I think, pretty high profile, but that's yet to be announced.
Oh, it's under the wraps.
So stay tuned for that. I ideally would love to have a football game, or a cricket game, Durham against Sunderland. So if anyone from Sunderland's listen, they're quite hard to get in touch with, and people are struggling to get back. So if there's anyone from the club that fancy a game of cricket or football against the cricketers,
you should do both, really.
Absolutely, we're keen. T20 or 100, whatever it is.
I'd rather use it if I was playing. Like, the cricket ball is quite a scary object. Like, it's very hard, and it feels like it would really hurt if it hit you.
I'd love to play football, just in the pure fact that for the last 2 years, Brydon, right, young South African lads, come across full of enthusiasm. He reckons he can score at least 1 goal in a football league game if he plays up front with proper footballers.
Do you reckon?
I do.
If you've seen him in warm-ups of cricket,
honestly,
he's got no chance.
Bambi on ice.
Honest, mint. I am. I'm absolutely mint, mate.
Who do you compare? What is your?
Josie Allen.
Like, no,
Sinclair.
on a lesser scale.
No, I mean they're gonna make the new FIFA skill called the bloody Carse skill or whatever it's called.
Who's your comparison? Who do you model yourself on?
I like to think I'm a bit like, I don't know. It depends. Like, it depends what the weather's like as well. The weather.
See,
no,
look,
honest.
He's back chatting already.
I am.
How would you have done yesterday?
Yesterday, Nah, I would have just sat back yesterday.
He's a cricketer, mate.
Contemplating
the rain.
Gonna see that.
All right, the weather's perfect. It's a sunny day. It's about 22 degrees. It's not too hot. There's no breeze. It's not humid. Who are you?
Got McGeady one side, Gooch the other.
It
Just
depends,
feeding you,
yeah.
mate. Just
And you're
feeding
in
you.
the
My
middle.
finishing's like Madja. My skills like McGeady. I am.
So you're just a League One
I'm as
footballer.
fast as Gooch.
Fair play. Nah, he's a championship. Look at him a championship level.
Go, right, yeah.
To be fair, I did say that when Sunderland win the Premier League, I'd score
you
a
did,
goal.
aye.
I did. I.
Do you reckon? Well, I mean, we could all. I mean, Danny Graham once scored one off his arse. So
Evan, no way.
there's hope.
John's dead.
I do back
Eventually did.
myself. Like I do.
Your goal would be like Maguire's yesterday. That's as good as
You
you'd
never
get.
know, mate.
It's as good as you'd get.
Well, you should be lethal at throw-ins. Rory Delap.
Rory did that, right?
Yeah, you should both be good at throw-ins, actually.
What was he called? The kid from Tranmere, Dave Challoner. Was it Challoner?
Was he the one who used
Tranmere,
to
who used to belt him from the halfway line.
Yeah, so
There you go.
you could do that.
There's hope yet, mate.
There is.
We'll give you a bat.
Would I be here?
We'll give you a bat. I don't know if you're allowed to do that, like. Probably
I'd
not.
imagine not, like.
Yeah, probably not. Probably not allowed with a bat. Right, this is descended into chaos, so I'm going to wrap it
turn
up.
it
So
off.
thanks, guys, for coming on. We appreciate it. Go watch Durham cricket if you're interested in cricket. Even if you're not interested in cricket, you can drink in the stands, can't you?
Yeah,
Yep.
Yeah, see, it's better than the football, isn't it?
exactly.
Yeah, I might take the wife.
I've got some business cards in you.